Now, let us see how the inheritance works, and we'll see the access specifiers. Fine. So observe the syntax carefully. So the syntax for performing any inheritance is something like this. So you have a class, superclass or base class, whatever you call it as. And then further you define another class after the first class. That is my derived class. Fine. But to form a relation between the superclass or the base class and my derived class, I'll have to mention colon visibility mode, I would call it as visibility mode, and name of your superclass. So how do we read this? Create class, derived class, publicly, privately, or protected, whatever way you want, public or private or protected, whatever visibility mode you want, you can mention it. So we'll say, for example, publicly inherit from the superclass. Understood? So this is the way we form a simple inheritance between the superclass and the derived class. Okay. Now, a derived class, as you can read over here, can access all the non-private members of its base class. That means if there is any protected member, or if there is any public member, may it be a data member, may it be a member function, does not matter. If it is protected or public, only then the derived class can access these members. So what we can say is, by inheritance, we are only able to access protected and public data members and member functions. Non-private, focus on the term non-private. That means the other two remaining, private and private data members won't be accessible, protected and public will be accessible. Right? Another point here to note, which we will see in the coming slide as well, this public, private and protected inheritance affects whatever you are inheriting, where it will be kept. Fine. If I specify public over here as the visibility mode, then whatever is being inherited from the public part, that will be placed in the public part of my derived class. And definitely, even if I mention as public over here, whatever is protected in my derived class, in my base class, that will remain protected in my derived class also. Getting this point? So this is very crucial to understand. We'll see a table and things will be more clear about how protected inheritance works, how private inheritance works, and how the public inheritance works. Right? Any doubt by far? Anyone? Okay. So the base class members that should not be accessible to the member functions of my derived class should be declared as private in the base class. What are they saying? Simply want to convey that if at all I want that certain base class members should not be accessible to the member functions of the derived class, then such base class members must be declared as private in my base class. As simple as that. We saw only private data members are not accessible. Apart from that, protected and public can be accessed in my derived class. So if you want something to be private, not to be shared with the derived class, then declare that in the private section of the base class. Right? So we can summarize the different access types according to which all classes can access it in this way. Fine. Suppose we are publicly inheriting, then definitely the functions of the same class can access it since it is public. If it is public, then derived class can access it. So it is mentioned as yes. And if it is public, outside the class also such member functions and data members are accessible. Outside the class means from the main. Generally, we are trying to access such members from the main. If it is public inheritance, so this is the case. If it is protected, then such members are accessible in the same class. Definitely they are accessible in the derived class. Just now we saw they are accessible and they are kept in the protected part of my derived class. And if the inheritance is protected, then we will not be able to access it from the main directly. Then what is the solution? How do I access the protected members of any class? Yes,
A member functions.
by use of functions. There's no
Mm,
other way. Sorry?
no, sir, I'm telling the same.
Yes, okay, okay. Okay. Then in case of private inheritance, definitely members will be accessible in the same class, which is same class means the base class. Those members which are private cannot be accessed in the derived class, nor they can be accessed outside the class, that is from the main.